Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call to order the June 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Carroll County Planning and Zoning Commission. Can we please establish a quorum?
Morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Chewood,
Here.
Mr. Canali, Mr. Walters,
Here.
Ms. Kirkner,
Here.
Mr. Lester,
Here.
Mr. Gosnell,
Here.
Commissioner Wance,
Excited to be here.
Secretary Eisenberg.
Here.
Ms. Chair, please let the record reflect that 6 members are present and we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next on to review and approval of the agenda. Any changes?
No, there are no changes to the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we'll move on to our special election for a new vice chair to replace Dan Hopp, who had to step down because he got more exciting opportunity. So we'll start the,
Wait a minute. How could it be more exciting than this? Come on.
so I'm sure we'll see him again. I'll go ahead and start the
Yes.
script. Okay, so we will now accept nominations for the office of vice chair.
I nominate Jeffrey Weathers for vice chair.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Walters, do you accept the nomination for vice chair?
Yes.
Oh, good. Are there any other nominations? Okay, I would like to close the nomination for vice chair and elect Jeffrey Walters for office of vice chair. I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to elect Jeffrey Walters for vice chair say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congrats.
So we'll move then to review and approval of our minutes from May 18th and June 2nd. Does anybody have any revisions?
I move approval of the minutes from May 18th and June 2nd.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
On to item number 7, our commission member reports. Madam Secretary. Oh, that's me.
Actually, no,
Sorry.
that would not be, that's next.
I'm first.
That's okay, you're first.
I don't have anything to report at this time. Commissioner, would you like to make any statements right now?
Sure. First of all, congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you, Commissioner. It's my pleasure.
Welcome back aboard in a different role, but we're glad to have you in that spot. So.
Thank you very much.
Couple things from me, just to give you an update on what's going on here at the county office building. Obviously, you see that folks are in the office building, which is amazing in itself. I will say that all things COVID are starting to wind down, if you will. And I want to say that it's winding down because of the cooperation and the dedication of our citizens. We wouldn't be where we are if it wouldn't be for our citizens. Whether you disagree or agree with the masking, that great political debate that has been going on, we are where we are because everyone paid attention and followed the science. And now I must say that if you have not gotten vaccinated, that I implore you to do that. It is necessary to do that. It's going to get us back to normal, and I think there should be no debate on that. So hopefully all of you can see that the vaccine has absolutely made a difference in the way in which we are living. So please follow the science. I was on an hour-long meeting this morning already with the University of Maryland Shock Trauma, which I'm proud to serve on their board, and they said the same message. There have been no deaths in the last 2 days in the state of Maryland, maybe 3 days. They were unsure about that third day. And we are at a 0.6% positivity rate, which is amazing in itself. So most everyone is formally standing down their command posts, including UMMS, and that's a good thing. And Jeff, you certainly are familiar with what's going on at LifeBridge as well. So yes. Everyone is working together, and that's a good thing. Interesting that came out of this morning's meeting with the University of Maryland Medical System. They, along with Hopkins, are mandating the vaccines by September the 1st for all their employees. If not the vaccine, then you have to get a weekly COVID test. They've given that alternative. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, certainly more to come. Here in Carroll, we had 10 positive cases last week, which is down from 13 from the week before. And that's the 10th time in 11 weeks that we've seen a decline. So again, good positive news. Carroll County has the lowest unemployment rate on another, let's get off of COVID for a little bit. Lowest unemployment rate in the state, and we remain at the top or near the top of being the safest county in the state. It's very important. It's very important for this group as well, because we put a lot of effort into making sure we do that. And if you've picked up a paper or turned on the TV lately, you've seen the uptick in violence that has occurred around us, which, quite frankly, the only word is senseless, I guess, that I could come up with. And it's very near to us here. So we're engaged in assisting all things Baltimore. I'm actually the chairman this year of the Baltimore Metropolitan Council, so I've been working closely with all the groups there, and we're hopeful that something changes there. I wish I had the answer, but I don't know that anyone does. So we're going to continue to try to assist them, because, quite frankly, what happens in Baltimore City sort of drives the engine of the state of Maryland. Broadband grants, we've gotten 2 over the last several weeks. Another important item for this group. More to come. We're going to be lighting up 2 roads in the very near future, which is incredible in itself. We're going after every penny that we can. So we're hoping that occurs. Most of you know that our Director of Fire and EMS abruptly resigned. We're in the process of taking applications for a new director, and we'll be working on that. That's actually posted until the 12th of July. We hope to have someone on board by the end of July to continue that process. And you may have seen some activity on some of our roads lately, another important item for this group. In this year's balanced budget that we just finished, there's a 3-year program that will eliminate all of the gravel roads in Carroll County. So we will be hardening them in some fashion over the next 3 years. Interestingly enough, I've already received phone calls from people that do not want their roads hardened. So we'll be dealing with that and working, but it's going to save the county a lot of money over the long run. And I'll be happy to take you for a tour, Pete, to show you some of my gravel roads.
There you go.
We're going to work that out.
I like it.
And finally, every Friday here through Labor Day, the county office building will be closing at 3 p.m. That's a way to say thank you to our employees for the past 15 months of hell. That's just our small token of saying we appreciate all that you have done. And I mean everybody when it comes to that, from the top cabinet all the way down to everybody that works hard to keep Carroll the #1 county in the state of Maryland. So little thank you, 3 p.m. each day on Friday. We'll be allowing folks to have a little extra time with family for a semi-long weekend, if you will. With that, Madam Chair, I appreciate it. Questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you.
Yell now or later.
A lot going on in the county, and
Yeah.
the gravel roads, I was on 2 of them yesterday, so they're within a mile of my house.
I know, so we're getting there, so thank you.
And yeah, the broadband and everything, actually very exciting.
Yep, good
So
news.
welcome back, other commission members. Would anybody else like to make a statement right now? Now we'll move on to the administrative report, Madam Secretary.
Well, welcome back, everyone, from a very long hiatus of meeting in person. As you know, through the pandemic, we did continue to meet virtually, and that went really well. Moving forward, we will continue to have our Tuesday meetings in person. Our Wednesday work sessions will continue to be virtual. We just thought that would work better, and if we need to change that up at some point in the future, we will do that. But I think that's a really good balance for everyone, including the citizens who sometimes it was challenging for them to come here in the evening to attend a meeting where they can now participate virtually as well. So we're excited about that change. I'd also like to thank Mr. Walters too for stepping up and being our vice chair. Congratulations and welcome to this new role.
Thank you.
I also have 2 new staff I'd like to introduce. One you've met virtually and one is a brand new staff person. Our planning department has been down 3 staff for several years now, and finally we've been able to fully staff and hire 2 new staff members and a replacement staff member. So with that, I'm going to introduce Caitlin Harvey. She is working on the transportation master plan, and you've met her virtually. And our newest staff member is Tiffany Fawcett. She is here with us, and she'll be working on zoning, some of the transportation master plan work, and housing as well, because that's a big thing that's coming down the pike for us in Carroll County that we really need to start to consider as we move forward to our new master plan process. That's a required element, so she'll be helping with that as well.
Welcome. Nice to see
Welcome.
you.
So that's all I have for my administrative portion. I would ask Laura Mattias if she has any extensions, if no extensions this month. And then Hannah Weber is here for BZA cases.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
There is 2 dates for BZA hearings this month on the 29th and the 30th. We made comments for one. BZA case 6324, Sandy and Ryan Bolson, located on Hanover Pike in Manchester, Election District 1. This was a conditional use for a commercial kennel on 50 acres located in the ag zone, and our determination was it is consistent with the master plan. And that's it.
All right, so those are all the BZA cases, and I have nothing else for my administrative report this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item number 9, our public engagement meeting for June 30th. Just a brief, I thought we should just bring up to the commission a brief discussion about what the meeting's about and how it's gonna proceed, since it's a little different from our normal evening meeting.
So we have scheduled on June 30th, which is our 5th Wednesday of the month, a public engagement meeting to have the public engage, have a discussion regarding the residential text that has been put forward that you all worked very hard on. So prior to forwarding it to the Board of County Commissioners, we thought it would be a good idea to have this dialogue. As you recall, through the pandemic, staff worked with the community as well, doing various webinars to try to engage people and answer questions, using a GoToWebinar process on the different steps of the residential text. You all have received a lot of comments on the residential text over the last year or so, especially regarding cluster development, and so that's something that, and density changes, densities for senior housing changes that are happening too in the residential districts. We have received quite a few comments since we opened a more formal comment period on our website, but most of those have been property specific. So I just want to also remind the viewing audience that we're really just talking about the text. The map portion for the Zabel property and the Beatty property is no longer in the Planning Commission's hands. That has been approved with a favorable recommendation to forward to the Board of County Commissioners for their consideration. So that is no longer something that you all will be making any different recommendations or decisions on at this time. The idea is once you have heard all the comments and have had an engaged discussion with the community at our June 30th meeting, when we meet again on July 7th, you'll have a discussion and see if there's any changes that you'd like to make, any other revisions to the residential text for those districts. Then we will forward a complete package to the Board of County Commissioners. That will include the R40,000 district, R20,000 district, R10,000, and R7,500 district, along with those properties for the board's consideration. And then we'll work with them to see if there's any additional changes they would like to make to the text prior to a public hearing, and then we'll move through the process with the property changes as well, as far as implementing the master plan. So the idea now for the June 30th meeting is we have a sign up, just as we did for the individual properties, that they will be signing up to speak at that meeting, so we can take callers in an orderly manner as for the comments that they wish to give on the residential text. And the idea is we'll give them 3 minutes to make their statement, and then Planning Commission will have around 3 or so minutes to respond back if it is a type of statement that requires a response. And then if there's a follow-up question, give an opportunity then for the speaker to have a quick follow-up as well. If there's a really detailed response that's needed from a particular question, staff will go ahead and reach out to those individuals and give them a very detailed response after the meeting, and we'll post all of this on our website. Are there any questions or comments? So far, I think we have 2 speakers signed up. So hopefully, as we get closer to that June 30th date, which is next Wednesday evening, we'll have more people that want to sign up and have the discussions.
Yeah, we wanted to make it definitely more interactive, because when we used to have our work sessions, people could sit in the audience and ask about it before. So this way it'll give, like, kind of, before we haven't been able to respond. It's just, they just ask questions or comments, and this time we'll at least be able to respond or have somewhat of a discussion, so, and give, hopefully, constructive back and forth. So, I think, hopefully more people sign up, because I think it'd be helpful.
I like the format. I like the fact that we have a chance. It's more of a dialogue as
Yeah.
opposed to just us sitting and listening. Not that we don't take all of that into account, but in real time, I think we can ask questions back to the person who might have concerns or thoughts, and I think that helps to elevate the conversation. And I think the other thing I've seen in our virtual discussions with the public is that it has been very constructive. And I've said this virtually, but I feel like the level of civility has been very high. And for me, it's much easier to hear a person's thoughts and comments and concerns when the discussion is polite and civil. And I'm not surprised that members of Carroll County have engaged in thoughtful civil discussions with us, and it's been really enjoyable and I think helpful. So I just encourage that again for the folks that are calling in. I know there's a lot of passion around some of these things, and that's great. But the discussion where it's been, I would say it's trending in the right direction. Certainly, it's very, very helpful, at least as far as I'm concerned. I think that's very good.
You know, in our last meeting, we discussed several different ways to potentially cast our net a little broader in terms of publicizing the event, maybe on some of the high schools, electronic signs in front of their facilities. Have we had any success in more broadly publicizing the event?
We worked with the senior centers, because that's under our control. We have not been able to engage with the school system, unfortunately, but the senior centers do have that information. And as well, I believe the libraries were reached out to through our media center to help get the information out and get people to sign up. So we can certainly do more blasts. We also did a press release as well to try to get the word out to have those. And again, community organizations, we've reached out to them to let them know. Please give their comments. We've had positive results from the Finksburg group, the Freedom group, saying that they would like to participate. So I just hope people sign up. And Hannah has up on the website the sign up section. Hannah, if you could just scroll up for a second. So again, very plain speak. If they want to submit your comment, you just click on that button where it says please click here. And then if you want to sign up, you just click on the button down there, making it very easy and user friendly. And then if you want to know more about what you'll be speaking about, or if you haven't been keeping up of every meeting, we have all the information right below that of what the comments are and where the text stands as of the June 30th meeting. So all the resources are right there under carrollrezoning.org.
I had said this before also. We've had a lot of comments from those in the southern end of the county, and that's great. But what we're doing affects the whole county. So I just sort of would reiterate the fact that we'd like to hear from folks throughout the county
Sure.
to make sure we don't have unintended consequences somewhere else. So
Right.
voices from throughout the county would be welcome.
Right. I mean, because this is for all of Carroll County. Just because they're not zoned residential now doesn't mean that there may be a chance in the future, because the zoning code doesn't get updated very often. So
The Realtor Association is reaching out to their members. So,
but
Yep, the more input, the better.
right, and they'll reach out to their clients.
any other comment?
I have nothing else unless you all do, and I would say the 3 minute, and everyone kind of has questions about why 3 minutes. I mean, that's just gonna be, it's a rule. If you all want to have longer discussion, if we don't have a ton of people signed up, the reason we do the 3 minute back and forth is to give everyone an opportunity. You don't wanna be the 30th person on the line who signed up and, be 4 hours into this meeting. So it does kind of help the speaker really frame what they want to ask ahead of time, and then gives us an opportunity to respond back. And 3 minutes actually is a lot longer than people think when you're really talking in front of everyone. So, and then with the follow-up opportunity as well. So it will, 6 minutes, 7 minutes is a very long time per speaker to give that opportunity to.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now on to item number 10, our Sykesville annexation, schoolhouse overlook, discussion and hopefully a decision. Claire, good morning.
Good morning. It's nice to see you all in person.
You too.
So I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint for you. Okay, and I was before you on June 2nd for an introduction of this. So today we are looking for additional discussion and decision, and I want to let you know we have Joe Cosentini, he's the town manager of Sykesville, and then we have Kelly Schaefer representing the petitioner if you all have any questions throughout the presentation or towards the end. Okay, so I'm going to start by refreshing your memory of what was shared at the June 2nd meeting. There have been a few changes to the most recent staff report that was sent out to you. The town has a public hearing scheduled for July 12th. So we'll have to have our comments into them prior to that. So Sykesville Development LLC is the petitioner for this annexation, and they are the owner of parcel F, which is the lower parcel. And I've given each of the 6 parcels a letter just to make it easier to see rather than going through parcel numbers. And like I said, 6 parcels, 5 of them are, a portion of them are incorporated, and then parcel E is unincorporated. And we are totaling 10.11 acres. Okay, so the annexation area on the left-hand map is starred in red, and on the right-hand map is outlined in blue. The hashed marking that you see, that represents the corporate limits. You can see that to the north, east, and west, the area is surrounded by the corporate limits. There's some unincorporated area to the south. To the north of the property is Oklahoma Avenue. There's Schoolhouse Road to the east. And then to the south is the CSX rail line. That's the North Branch of the Patapsco River, and then also the Carroll-Howard County line right there. And for zoning, the entire area is zoned conservation in the county, and we allow 1 dwelling unit per 3 acres. And then the town is proposing to bring a portion of the area into conservation, which is the same 1 dwelling unit per 3 acres, and then parcels A, B, C, and D would be brought into our 10,000, and that would match the existing zoning that's already in the town. And then that's 4.3 dwelling units per 1 acre. So that is significantly different than our conservation. It is, a zoning waiver is required and has been requested by the petitioner. And I don't think I mentioned, but parcels D, or parcels E and F would remain conservation. Okay, and you are looking at the designated land use map from the Sykesville 2030 comp plan. This was adopted by Sykesville's town council after the June 2nd meeting. And let's see, we have a land use on parcels E and F of conservation. And then A, B, C, and D are 10,000, or medium density residential. So those do match the proposed conservation from the proposed zoning from the town. And I know that's a little hard to see. We haven't updated our layers in GIS yet, so couldn't quite get that map there for you. And for water and sewer, A, B, and C, that top area, you can see my cursor, are with an existing water and sewer. And then D, E, and F are in future water and sewer, and that's 9.6 acres. If you recall, there was a spring 2021 amendment to the water and sewer master plan, which you all reviewed, that would move the 9.6 acres from future to priority water and sewer. That was adopted by the county commissioners, and it's been sent to MDE for final approval. And we have received no outstanding agency comments. I'd like to note that MDP is in the process of reviewing the recent adopted comp plan. So we are a little behind on receiving their comments, but I don't think there shouldn't be anything we receive that isn't consistent with what I've presented today. And I did want to mention, in the last staff report, there was a comment from planning to bring in, if the town had interest, to also annex this land below. In the recent plan update, that's no longer within the MGA, so it's not eligible for annexation, so I've removed that comment from the staff report. And staff's recommendation is to forward the comments in the staff report and support of the zoning waiver request to the county commissioners, and we'll be before them on Thursday, the 24th. At this time, are there any questions?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
I'll ask, just because it's adjacent to the railway and the river, are there any concerns about increasing the density on that property and the adjacent, the runoff down to the Patapsco River?
There have been concerns in the past, and I know the town can probably speak to that a little more. This is, they've had several development proposals on that site in the past, and they've considered, I believe, rezonings in the past, but this is zoned conservation, and it's allowed five units on it, and that's what the proposal is right now.
No other question?
Public comment on this one?
Oh, do we have anybody out in the audience who would like to make a comment?
Just hear your questions.
Thank you. So we'll need a motion or to forward it to the commissioners.
Well, I'll be glad to, there's one posted here that's suggesting, so I
Just a
can read it.
suggestion.
But, so I make a motion that the Carroll County Planning and Zoning Commission forward the comments outlined in the staff report and support of the zoning waiver request to the Board of County Commissioners.
I second.
So we have a motion and a second. Can I just do a, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks for refreshing our memory on that.
Absolutely.
It's really helpful when you started out by saying, let me refresh your memory. Needed that.
Great.
Now on to the discussion and certification of the annual report.
So I'm taking over for Mary today. She's actually subbing in for me for another meeting, so we kind of switched roles here this morning. Actually, today would have been my last meeting chairing the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board, and the new membership would be elected and serve for the next July 1 meeting. So I was able to serve in that role for 2 years as chair and 2 years prior to that as vice chair. So it's sad ending. It was really lovely to be in that position for a while. So.
And you did an awesome job, Linda.
Thank you, thank you.
You really did. It was the best 2 years they've ever had.
Thank you. I think so. So anyway, Mary's taking over for me today, so I can present the planning annual report. We gave the introduction to you at the June 2nd meeting. We covered all the different highlights of the annual planning report. And before you today is the certification letter that would be signed by Ms. Cheatwood that says that the annual planning report is in accordance with the land use article of the annotated code of Maryland and is consistent with all of our master plans as applicable. Would you like me to go over the report again, or?
Please.
Okay.
I think so.
All right. So
Hopefully, yes.
if you can just start on the second slide.
I think it'd be helpful.
So again, the purpose of the annual report, it's required by state law, and we actually do this also for the benefit of our 8 municipalities as well. So not every jurisdiction within Carroll is supplying their own individual annual reports to a Maryland Department of Planning. And the purpose of this annual planning report is to see what's happened in the jurisdictions as far as planning and development activities over a calendar year. So this goes from January 1 to December 31 of 2020. So it goes over zoning map amendments, text amendments, any new schools, roads that were developed, any water and sewer amendments. And then it looks at preliminary plans, recorded lots, building permits, and use and occupancy. And the reason I want to point that out is because it's kind of a nice hierarchy that the preliminary plans kind of tell you what's in the queue for what will be eventually a recorded lot. And there can be a good time span between that. So what you see and what you've approved in 2021 may not show up as a UNO for several years. So this is kind of the pipeline and the progression of how plans move through Carroll County. Then we go to the recorded lots, and then the building permits. So when building permits are pulled, then you know that there's a certainty that a use and occupancy certificate will be issued. We use in planning the use and occupancy certificates to help look at what our population number estimates will be for any given month. We do them monthly and then annually. Obviously, last year, 2020, was a census year. We still haven't received that census data, but then we will reset the bar, so to speak, of where Carroll's population is from last year's numbers, and then start the process over again. And it'll be interesting to see how well those use and occupancy certificates and some of the other multipliers that we use marry up with what the census has as a count. And Carroll County, not to go change the subject, will have a great count because we have one of the highest participation rates in the country and the highest participation rate in the state of Maryland. So that gives us a really good, accurate number of who's living in Carroll County. So we can go to the next slide. So again, as I said, this report includes information from the county and all 8 municipalities. We work with town staff to have them provide their information for that calendar year to us so we can incorporate it into the appropriate areas of the annual report. The annual report does not change from year to year, and the materials that are required to be submitted, so we're really just filling in what is requested of us from the state. And it's also a multi-agency effort, not only within county government, but also within our municipalities as well. So again, new plans and plan amendments are found on pages 2 through 11 of the annual report. There are several amendments to the water and sewer master plan. As you know, we do typically a spring amendment and a fall amendment, so those were captured. And again, that's another one of those plans that we do for the municipalities as well as the county. It's helpful for them to have one complete plan for representing all of Carroll County for water and sewer needs. And then we also did the amendments were for Taneytown, the City of Westminster, Town of Mount area, as well as the Freedom area. Site plans and subdivisions approved were on pages 12 through 15 of the annual report. So Carroll County had 14 residential lots approved, which consisted of 57 acres. The municipalities of Westminster and Taneytown approved 158 lots, comprising of 226 units and 60 acres. And a total of 172 lots and 117 acres, which I'm not quite sure, I apologize, what that final number was for. I think it was the total of everything for the first 2 numbers. Commercial industrial, very similar, and how we also, our growth pattern should be, are in the municipalities. So you anticipate you're always going to see more subdivision on smaller lots in the municipalities as opposed to out in the county area where we don't have the water and sewer service. So again, commercial industrial in the county was 119 acres, and then the municipalities was 13.53 acres, totaling 133 acres. So actually, this would be a good time now. Hannah, if you can escape out of that and go to this one, if you can go back to the folder that you pulled this presentation from, and then open up the top Word document. So if you recall, when we gave you the presentation, I had asked a question because I thought it was interesting. I didn't know the answer myself, to see how development is consisting or moving along with AgPres and our preservation efforts. So what we did was pull 5 years of numbers, and this is really, really dramatic and I think quite impressive. So from 2016 to 2020, the easement are in gray, the bar chart. These are acres, so we converted everything to acres as opposed to units. And then the orange are commercial site plans, and the blue are the residential and subdivision plans as well. And our AgPres is way outpacing our developed lands. So I know that there's a lot of concern in the community that we have a lot of development, we're overdeveloping, but we are preserving way more annually than we're developing, and not by a little bit, by a lot. So it just goes to show you the testament to our agricultural preservation program in Carroll County. So when you see some of the changes that we are doing here as far as some of the developed lands, it really, in comparison to what we're preserving in the open space in Carroll County, is not that significant. So I wanted to just show you all that, because I know we get a lot of questions and comments regarding that. And I thought this was really interesting in acreage.
That's a really useful chart.
Yeah, and it's not required by them. So I wanted to, I was like, hold on, let me see what happens.
And Linda, those acreages are cumulative. Is that right? Or is that?
That's annual.
That's annual,
That's
2,000 acres?
Correct. That's not cumulative. The cumulative would be that 75,000 acre mark that we're getting ready to come across. So
We're over it.
we are? Oh, I didn't know that. All right.
We're at 76, 100 and something.
I mean, that's incredible. So I just thought it was really a really interesting number and dynamic to show you all as part of this presentation. And again, these aren't numbers required by state law, but it just, to me, it begged the question of what are we doing? How are we pacing that? And I would say this might have been the opposite in the 90s, where development was way outpacing, not just in Carroll County, but every jurisdiction, AgPres. So
I hate to say that, I've got to drill down on this for 1 second, because I have in my notes that we had 982 acres preserved last year on 11 farms, about $7 million, of which $4 million was from our county, and the rest was. So where's the 2,000 acres come from? Because I could have sworn I wrote it in my notes, 982.
yeah, 982. It's there. 2020 is the first number.
Okay, my bad, okay,
So your notes are right.
okay.
Yeah, it just it went from right to left. As
My
opposed,
bad,
yeah.
I apologize.
So I'll go back to the presentation
my
now.
bad.
Of course.
That's great.
So this map just shows where those residential subdivision site plan and non-residential subdivision site plans were located. And it's, as you would suspect within our municipal growth areas, along main corridors, and near the towns themselves. And that's where our development should be occurring, are in those areas, not out in our agricultural reserve area. And then again, here's the residential 10-year development trend. And it's been fairly consistent from 2010 to 2014, but then as you can see, we really had a much lower trend starting in 2015, 2016, with a little anomaly in 2019 for residential. That's subdivision, again, not development. So again, these are two different things. This is the pipeline. So this is what's been subdivided, which will then move into eventually building permits and use and occupancy permits. And as we become more developed, and we are doing some rezonings now, you imagine that number will stay probably fairly consistent on the lower end, unless we have some major rezoning efforts where we're upzoning land from ag and conservation to a residential district, or if we do some commercial rezonings beyond what we've already done. And again, same with commercial. And then 2014 was such an anomaly. I think Mary explained this last time, Lehigh. We counted the Lehigh conveyor belt because it had to be a site plan, and we did the acreage of that, so that's why that number spiked right there. But again, fairly consistent. Again, annexations are found on pages 16 and 17, and we had 3 annexations last year, 2 in Westminster and 1 in Hampstead, and not a ton of acreage there. A lot of the annexations we know are just for necessity for development projects that the municipalities have partial properties in and out of their municipality. Zoning amendments, amendments to the priority funding area boundary, new schools, transportation, park facilities, APFO, which is adequate public facilities, are found on pages 19 through 23. So there were revisions to several local ordinances affecting future development. So Union Bridge had a small wireless facility ordinance change. Mount Airy with their mixed-use development I-1 district, neighborhood professional district. And also they changed how long the review time is for their annexations within Mount Airy. Westminster replaced the city park board with the director of recreation and parks, and they altered some terms within their historic district. So those are just some of the minor changes within the municipalities. There were no changes to any of the municipalities or the county for priority funding areas, and there were no new schools or additions. And then if you all recall too, we just certified the Board of Education facilities master plan and looking at changes. So we anticipate we'll see some of those with the renovation of East Middle and things like that taking place in the future. Changes to roadway networks. Westminster did amend their master distribution chart and their water and sewer allocation policy, which has been challenging over the last several years. There were no new parks developed in the county, but Wakefield Valley Park in Westminster was. Again, so building permits issued, and the state of Maryland makes us put these in terms of inside the priority funding area and outside the priority funding area, as well as inside our municipal growth areas and outside of our municipal growth areas. So again, 537 building permits were issued, and you can see the break between in and out of the PFA. And the state requires this because they want to see how well the 20-year priority funding area law has worked in terms of keeping development and the appropriate areas for development. So we have that balance of developed land and conservation and agricultural land. And again, here shows the building permits issued. So again, this is different than the subdivision. This is the building permit. So again, that funnel of how we develop in Carroll County are found on page 34. Again, then we also do the same with the use and occupancy permits. So we had that 532 building permits issued, and could have been those years building permits issued and homes actually took occupancy. So that 402 number doesn't necessarily represent 402 out of the 532. But again, the in and out of the PFA scenario as well. And then you can see here on the map, the orange is the residential and the purple is the non-residential UNOs. And then now you can see the 10-year trend. And so how the other one was all up and down, again, because that's the pipeline, this is what actually was issued. And you can see a slight uptick from 2019 to 2020. We know that 2020 was a very busy year despite the pandemic for development across the country, and also shortages in housing across the country. The supply is much lower than the demand, and so there is a supply-demand imbalance, especially with dwellings, nationally, not just unique to Carroll. And then you can see the commercial and industrial, as you would suspect, was very similar to prior years. Our big years were in 2010 and 2011. So page 40 is the existing and potential development lots. And what this is we look at properties, what they're zoned, and what infrastructure is in place. We don't really have an idea of perkability, though we can try to guesstimate what land is perkable, but we estimate what our total future development potential is until we reach build out. And that's only just based on what today's policies are now. Those policies can change, and build up can go up or can go way down as well. But inside the PFA, we currently have 36,000 existing units. outside the PFA are 29,000 units, for a total of 66,000 units within Carroll County. And for future potential, and this is lots, and so sometimes lots can be multiple units depending on what the zoning is, but we have about 24,000 lots available within Carroll County. So that would, you would say, would be built out. Now, some of that may or may not be. It's not a perfect crystal ball in a science for what it is, but it kind of gives you actually really a higher estimate, because I'm sure there's other challenges we're not accounting for within our modeling of what can be built, especially when it comes to septic and sewer, water as well.
So about 2/3 built out,
Mm-hmm. Correct.
based on today's.
Yes. And I will tell you, it does not take into account tiers. We have not built the model for that. So actually, that could be potentially lower if tiers were taken into account. But, we have asked that question in the past, and not by much because of how restrictive our ag zoning is. So you can't really subdivide too much more than what's already allowed via our zoning anyway. And then again, this is the same, but for non-residential acreage as well, which is not constrained and limited by water and sewer availability as much as the residential. And then going back to the ag pres, so again on page 44, we report what's been preserved in Carroll County, so 982 acres in the calendar year of 2020, including 11 farms. This does not include some of our other programs that we have, like water easement, forestry, things like that, other types of open space requirements for communities. So this is just what we do under our various agricultural preservation programs in Carroll County, not the other mechanisms that put land aside for conservation. So again, when we did this, we had 74,000 acres, so good to know we're well now over 75,000 acres and well over 75% of our 100,000 acre goal. And last year, we committed over $6 million, almost $7 million, and 60% of those funds, that $4 million number, were county contributions. And again, here is our ag preservation. So the brownish color is what is currently preserved as of 2019, and then the color blocks of green, purple, and turquoise are what we have preserved through the various agricultural preservation mechanisms of our easement programs, the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation, and Rural Legacy. And you can see again that far western portion near Town, Union, Virginia, Windsor. That is our priority preservation area and one of our main concentrations, as well as near Hampstead and Manchester is the county's rural legacy area. And that's where those are the only two areas you can use rural legacy funds. MALF can be used throughout the county, but you get prioritization if you use them in your priority preservation area. And then county easements, again, there's no restriction as long as it's in Carroll County. So again, I think we have one more maybe.
I think Prescott Hampstead last
Okay,
week.
so then now we have all of, since this presentation, we have all of the municipality certifications from what they've submitted to us to compile. And once we have the certificate from this body, we will compile it and send it to Maryland Department of Planning. It's due by July 1. We had to do it via the pandemic last year, October 1, so it was a short turnaround time for this year's annual report. And then we will give this report to the Board of County Commissioners as well, so you and your board can see what's happened in Carroll over the last year for development activity. Are there any other questions or comments?
So you'll need a motion to certify or accept it?
Yes, to certify, and then the chair, Ms. Cheatwood, you would sign, so we can submit it.
So certify and forward to the commissioners.
Actually, we've certified and forwarded it just to MDP directly, but we will give the commissioners a presentation, but it only needs planning commission certification prior to submitting it.
Okay. Any questions? Not, we have a motion?
I'd move to certify and forward to MDP.
I second it.
So we have a motion and a second to certify and forward the 2020 planning annual report to MDP. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have a recess. It's about 9:50, so we'll go for about 10 minutes, till 10, exactly 10 o'clock sometime. And, adjourn our meeting, and we're going to move on to our concept site plan for S180021, Performance Food Service Maryland, the 19th amended plan.
That is absolutely correct. Thank you. And
Wow.
Good morning, everybody. It really is good to see all of you in person again.
Nice to see you.
Once more, I'm Kirsten Egerl of Carroll County's Bureau of Development Review. And as the chair has said, we are here for the concept site plan for Performance Food Services S-180021. I have with me here today the developer and the engineer. If you could introduce yourselves.
Mike Mattingly, the president of Performance Food Service Maryland.
And Dan Staley with DRS and Associates.
Thank you very much. And of course, they'll be present here if there are any questions as we move forward through this 9th amended site plan. Over the years, the county and the planning commission has seen this site quite a bit. This is the 9th amended site plan. They are coming back again with this concept plan, and as a concept plan, no action is being requested by the planning commission. However, with all site plans, you can choose to delegate final approval authority to the chair. So this 9th amended site plan is, the intent of it essentially is to add more parking, to add more space for the trucks. The site is located just southwest of the city of Westminster. You can see the municipal limits right up here. The site itself, at the time that the plan was submitted, was zoned industrial general. This is 2018, 2019 zoning code changed, and the designations changed. However, the area surrounding the site and the site itself, they're all still zoned industrial type zonings. There are industrial uses down there. This is off of Avondale Road, Medford, what's that? Stone Chapel. A lot of industrial uses down there. So that's still consistent to this day with the industrial type zonings. So as I mentioned, this is Performance Food Groups, Performance Food Services. It is a warehouse site. It is a warehouse site for food, and as you can see, there are quite a few distribution and transportation trucks on site at the time that this photograph was taken. It's very busy there. A lot of trucks coming, a lot of trucks going, a lot of trucks parking and waiting. So they're proposing to add new parking. You can see they already have, on this existing photograph, they already have quite a few parking lots. They have 2 parking lots on the southern entrance, which are for the trucks that go to the loading docks. And then this northern entrance here leads to the employee and visitor parking for cars, trucks, and the like. Not the big trucks, just the regular trucks. So they're proposing to more or less expand most of these sites, most of these parking sites in one way or another. I'm going to show you some before pictures here, and then we'll look at the plans. So these top 3 pictures here are the truck parking areas. This is the northern entrance off of Avondale Road. You can see the 1 truck parking lot on the right. You can see, if you squint, you can see the gatehouse here that leads back to the loading docks, and on the left is the other parking lot. So we're right here looking in. So we got the parking lot on the right and on the left. The one on the right is proposed to remain the same. The one on the left is changing, and there are going to be changes throughout the site as well. This picture here is of the trucks in the left-hand parking lot. It's proposed to change pretty significantly. You can see the rear of them here. That parking lot is proposed to expand into this region here. There's a stormwater management pond there. You were able to see in that last photograph, that indentation in the ground. The parking lots are proposed to expand to the point where they will be covering where that stormwater management pond is now. It will be removed from that location entirely. It will be removed, and a new stormwater management pond is proposed to be relocated to the southwest corner of the site to accommodate for that expansion of the parking. Before we get to the ponds, I wanted to go over what's actually being proposed here a little bit. So as I mentioned, the southernmost truck parking lot is proposed to remain the same. There are some small expansions happening throughout the site and some large expansions as well. For example, you can see the small expansion of the employee parking here, in addition to this reorientation and expansion of the truck and the employee parking. A new drive lane proposed to be added alongside the central lane of the guardhouse that goes to the loading docks. You'll also see, if you look closely at the plans you have on the screen, It's also proposing some park queuing in that area, so I think it looks like freeing up this access point here frees up some space here for them to queue some trucks to be loaded onto the dock. So just general reconfiguration, optimizing of the space for the traffic flow that they get on site. In total, if the plan is approved to add these spots as shown, the total number of trucks they can have on site in the parking spaces is 135. And the total number of other vehicles in the employee parking would increase to 213. That brings the total for the site to 348 spaces. By code, the site's only required to provide 179, so they're far exceeding the minimum requirement, and they're doing this for the betterment of their business. So I did mention that the larger expansion up here, this reorientation and expansion of the truck parking and the employee parking would remove and relocate the stormwater pond. That's being put over here at the corner of Avondale and Medford Road. Actually, a portion of the facility will be within the county's right-of-way for the road. That's something that they've worked out with the Public Works Office. Public Works is in agreement with the location for this facility. The developer will be agreeing to maintain the facility to the standards agreed upon with Public Works. So that will be a formal agreement there. Stormwater management has also been, of course, working closely on this. You'll see that the file number is in S18 in 2018 was it was originally submitted, so there's been quite a bit of back and forth on this one. So stormwater management will be reviewing this for final approval, as well as engineering review in association with the right-of-way, the proximity to the right-of-way that we were just talking about. As far as the other agencies go, Forest Conservation was previously approved on a previous site plan. The previous site plan also included, you'll see right here on this plan, there's a small building addition shown. I just wanted to bring that up because you'll see that on your plans. That's not actually a new proposal. That was approved in a previous site plan, 2017 site plan. And it's just shown here because it hasn't been built yet. So the previous plan approved for forest conservation. Landscaping does need to be addressed. They are working on that, and landscaping will review that for final approval when that comes in. However, there was a waiver granted for the truck parking area to not require landscaping within the truck parking area.
The new truck parking.
The new truck parking area. And they will be providing landscaping within the employee parking area. You can see the islands here. And besides that, a lot of the other agencies have granted approval as presented. Water resource management, grading, soil conservation, all approved as shown. Zoning, state highway, approved as shown. Fire protection as well as ADA. This is outside this jurisdiction of the Bureau of Utilities. It actually is within the future growth area for the City of Westminster Public Water. It's actually already utilizing and this is just as a note that's in the plan. There's a water line that comes in here and goes to a fire suppression tank. It's a water reuse line from the Westminster Sewage Treatment Plant. So it's actually using its own water. It has its own well, but it's in the future sewer designation, future water designation, existing sewer. And planning has approved it as well as being consistent with the current plans and growth areas. And the health department has also approved the plan as shown. There's really nothing changing as far as capacity. The building isn't actually being proposed to change. And there is nothing new there. And this was exempt from floodplain as well. And I think that about sums it up. As I mentioned, this will be reviewed closely by the stormwater management and the engineering review when this comes in for final. Those agreements will be formalized regarding the proximity to the right-of-way of the roads. And the landscaping waiver that was granted here has already been granted, but we'll be reviewing again for final approval for the landscaping that is required on the site.
They are required to have it along the roadway? That's because I see it on the landscape plan, correct?
Yes, yes, it just, that picture didn't translate well, so we weren't able to put that up
Okay.
here. But yeah, they'll be putting landscaping along the roadways here. I believe there is some proposed down here as well as throughout the site
Right.
itself.
Okay.
Given the amount of parking on the site, I just have a question, almost globally. Do we allow for, if people put in curb and gutter, you know, on parking, do we allow for, developers to include that as a retention area? But, not retention, detention, if they put curb and gutter in? Is there gonna be curb and gutter on that, in that parking area?
I do not believe that's.
No, there is. All the parking lots are curved.
Okay. And just, do we allow for that to slow down runoff in the calculation? I'm asking. Yeah.
Can I answer that?
Yes, please.
This site is in a karst topography area.
Okay.
So they don't want any surface water going into the subsurface. So the basin that we're proposing at the intersection of Avondale and Bedford Road will have a liner in it to keep all the water on the surface. And
Wow.
of course, we control that rate and volume when it gets discharged out to the existing culvert.
Right. And so, and also the curb and gutter that you're putting in will channel it there too?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So one of the things that we typically look at on site plans is sort of traffic flow and that sort of thing on the property. This is very complicated. Was it Mike?
Yes.
So I see that you've got 53-foot trailer parking off to the left. And then, at least the way I'm oriented. And then on the right, I see 36-foot trailer parking, which is, I assume this is all designed around the sorts of trailers you have coming in and the needs that you have.
So I have 48s, I have 36s, I have 28s, so the top lot on the left can hold long trailers. That trucking lot, that parking lot that's there to the right of that roadway, I couldn't do any more, right? So can only, I can fit 48s in there too, down near the end of it, but it's mostly for 36s, so.
And then do you have like over-the-road trucks coming in and decoupling and then have jockeys running around with the trailers? Or do you have a lot of the over-the-road trucks just parked there and they're waiting until they can get into the loading docks, or?
Yeah, I have a lot inbound. I'm 24/7. I don't, the only time I'm closed is Saturday evening till Sunday at 9 in the morning. But somebody's always there. I'm receiving inbound freight along that road, probably 80 trucks a day, 70, 80 inbound trailers a day. They're all 53s. And I'm shipping outbound anywhere between 7 at night till 6 in the morning.
Are a lot of these refrigerated trailers too, or are they dry?
Oh, I'm all refrigerated. And the inbound is dry and frozen refrigerated, obviously, as far as product. Carry over 9,000 items.
So I might have missed it. So you have a lot of the over-the-road trucks are just parked there waiting, or they're unhooking and then you've got jockeys running around, or a combination?
No, they're coming in. I mean, I do have some drop trailers with some of the vendors that I have, but it's mostly over the road, coming in, appointment, back in, get product off, and then they leave.
Okay. And so are you pretty satisfied that you've got the right size parking lot for the right size trailers for the volume that you have? Or are you sort of making do? You've got a lot of 36-foot trailer parking, but most of your trailers are 53 or 48. You're just gonna have to make do, or? how-
No, most of my trailers are 48, but if I have 80 trailers, there's probably 15 that are 48. They're mostly sort of 36 and 28s, or straight trucks, right? Because I double hookups on the 28s, so 48s are for long distance runs. But most of the inbound is 53s.
The way the site was designed is the southern parking lot, or the existing parking lot, was for the inbound trailers. And then the new parking lot to the north that we're expanding was for his delivery trucks.
Okay.
So they're kind of, and if you look, the lane that goes from the loading dock area down to that new parking lot, that's that traffic separate from the inbound trucks.
Right, I noticed that, yeah.
So-
So that's internal, basically, where you can,
What's that?
that's an internal lane back and
Yeah.
forth.
For
Yeah.
PFG drivers.
Because one of the things that we care about really is, you know, we're gonna have trucks parked out on the road because they can't get into your parking lot because you've
That's
got
the
congestion within your parking lot,
That's
and
been the challenge for 2.5 years.
I'll bet.
So I've been waiting for a permit for going almost 3 years, and it's a challenge. I've been dealing with the county, I've been dealing with the sheriff's office, but, you know, that road wasn't meant for Avondale when it was originally constructed. You know, I'm not an engineer or anything, but it wasn't made for 53s, right, back in late 80s. So when I have inbound lining up at 2 in the morning,
Right.
you know, there's 18, 20 trailers there on the right-hand side. And we've worked with the county, we've actually, they put signs up, but they're not employees of mine, I
Sure.
understand, right? So we just recently adjusted again, we put cones on the left-hand side, so they can't, closest to, on my side of the road, they would sometimes pull out and park there. So the need, of sense of urgency, and I understand, I'm not gonna show my frustration, but the sense of urgency, is it's drastically affecting my business. Because when people come, if this, I can put 130 trucks if it's approved. So all my inbound will be off the road, and they'd be queued on the 3 lanes coming in, as well as up on the top. And, you know, my trucks are gone during the day, right? So even if there's an overflow, that parking lot that's, we're asking for can probably hold, even if I have 50 inbound trailers out there. So, you know, right now, it's a, they come down, ticket, CSA points. DOT, drivers do not like CSA points right now, and drivers been getting inbound product. It's hard to, with the supply chain, especially the last 3 months, with the pandemic and the uptick, but it's been a challenge for 2.5, 3 years. I mean, Amendment 8 was done 2 Januaries ago. So Amendment 9 was submitted, you know, that's September, and this September will be 3 years. So I know there's a lot of work, I know there's a lot of different things, but it's a pretty long way.
Well, I don't want to slow you down, I just want to make sure I understand what we're looking at. The other thing is,
Yeah,
some
right.
trailers are 8 feet, some are 8.5 feet, right?
What's that?
Some of the trailers are 8 feet, some are 8.5 feet, like 96 and 102. Is this designed, do you get some of the wider trailers, and is this set up for them? Or-
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that triggered the problem out on Avondale Road. You know, the history behind Avondale Road is that the county reconstructed that road back in 88 and 89. And at that time period, trailers could only be 7.25 feet wide. Then around 93, 94, they were allowed to be 8.25 to 8.5. So Avondale Road is a 36-foot curb and gutter, which met the standard at that time, which was 2 8-foot parking lanes and two 10-foot driving lanes. Of course, when you go put an 8.5-foot trailer in an 8-foot space, it doesn't work,
Right.
which was caused the problem. But, you know, I think one of the things that's been discussed with no success so far is why don't we restripe Avondale Road, creating no parking on one side, a parking lane of 10 feet on the other side, and then you still have 2 driving lanes of 13 feet each, which is more than adequate for you know, anything that travels up and down that road. The other interesting thing too about Avondale Road, the last time we checked, the volume of traffic at either intersection, either Medford and Avondale or Stone Chapel and Avondale, was around 800 to 900 trips a day, and out of those 800 or 900 trips, probably 75% of them are PFG. So, but the design of the plan is to alleviate the problem on Avondale Road.
Plus, I think I've grown, obviously, so my truck capacity is, and will continue to grow. That's, you know, why I need probably when she said 130, I'm gonna need that 130 for future growth.
So that actually kind of segues into my question. So if this plan, you know, where you have the plan set up, where does that get you, or how far do you see this, you know, being under your capacity, or being at, you know, over your capacity, what you need, and then
As far as parking or as far as where at?
As far as parking, well, I guess both, because you'll be at the top end of both.
Yeah, parking probably 5, 6 years.
Okay.
Warehouse, maybe 4. Because my warehouse is now against Emerson's property to the right there when you see it. So, you know, we can't expand anymore our warehouse.
Right.
And so I'm already renting space in Emerson's property for dry,
Got it.
right? So, you know, there's some avenues of what we're planning on doing at that point.
Mhm.
And there's been discussion with my neighbor
Sure.
as far as acquiring that property
Sure.
down the road, obviously. In other words, PFG he's committed that if he ever is gonna sell, that he would talk to me first, because obviously he would wanna sell to me before putting it out on the market. And that hasn't happened yet, but
Mhm.
that's, if we stay there, we would expand over to that point.
Yeah. Yeah, that was more of a curiosity question for his, you know, your expansion and.
I'd
and
say
being
5 years
max
on
capa-
both.
Yeah, just max capacity, you know, it's good you have that worked out, but, good.
So as a concept plan, does this, are you guys pretty satisfied that this does as much as you can do on this property, given the needs that you have in terms of logistics on your property and how it works commercially and all of that?
Yes, as far as the parking,
Yes.
but, I mean, you know, if you look at the warehouse, I could take on the bottom, I don't know, what the south side.
That'd be the east side.
East side.
There is one more expansion that could happen on the east side of the building. They could, on the northeast corner, they could bump out the warehouse and get a little bit more space there, and then also add another parking lot for employee parking up there. Now, we had, early on, we had a concept plan or a sketch plan like that, but their director of new construction said that'll never happen, but I think Mike's got different ideas.
Well, I mean, we could develop that, no doubt. The preferred choice would be to acquire my next door neighbor, because that property is as big as my property. And I could build a freezer there and have dry refrigerated. The challenge with building on the side of the building that Dan's talking about is, you know, I have an ammonia freezer, I have an ammonia for my freezer unit. So that's all over on that side, so that would have to be redone. And, you know, if you're coming down Medford Road, down that hill, there's a farm there. So that pitch is probably 30 feet, 40 feet high on a cornfield that we have a retaining wall. Well, if we built over there, the amount of what we'd have to dig and the cost of that, you know, we're probably better off buying property instead of going through all that.
Well, I appreciate you answering all my questions. I just want to, you know, and getting the trucks off the street, I think, is probably what you want too. You want them on your property, you want to be able to move them around.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, thank you.
Any questions from the commission?
Nope.
Do we have any public comment? Anybody would like to comment about this? So there's no action, do we need an action if we want just to forward, for me to just?
For
sign?
site plans, yes. Yeah, you'd have to make that decision.
You gotta delegate approval if you guys, unless you wanna see the final site plan.
I don't think so. So,
We'll need a motion for that.
so I would make a motion that we delegate authority for approval of the final site plan to the chair. That'll speed things up.
I'll second that.
You appreciate that.
Just,
Thank
you don't need a roll call, do you? So, all in favor?
Aye.
So unanimous.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
What's that? Yeah. Good for our town. Absolutely. Getting.
So up next is item number 14, another concept site plan, S18002, 0022, EMH Environmental.
Morning.
Morning.
As we put the agenda together, our agenda items for today, I was like, oh, that's kind of uncanny that the previous project was an S180021 and this is 0022. It came in right afterwards back in 2018. So there's a little crazy to that. But so here we are. This is a concept plan before you today. For EMH Environmental is the name of the business that is looking to utilize this site. So, as I stated, the initial plan came in back in 2018. So, at that point in time, the property was zoned BG, Business General, and it is being processed under BG, which is our former designation before the code change in December 2019. So, the site itself is 3.94 acres, and we're down on Woodbine Road all the way south in the county, so just north of the railroad tracks there. So again, we're here before you with a concept report. There's no action required. And Jeff, if you would like to introduce yourself as the engineer.
Good morning, Jeff Ziegler with CLSI.
Thank you. Awesome. All right, so here's a close-in shot of the site. We are, as I said, on the west side of Woodbine Road, and the property itself, I'll show you some photographs here. You'll see there is one, this is a storage building that's on the property. Other than that, gravel access road coming into the site, and that's about it. Okay, we do have a stream that cuts the corner here. There is floodplain on the site, which is associated with, you saw the proximity to the south branch of Tapsco River right there at the railroad tracks. So there is floodplain on the western and southern portions of this property. That gravel access drive does come out to at Woodbine Road. You'll see the access point is actually an asphalt apron right now, and it's shared with the property just to the south here. They share that driveway, so that's 7746 Woodbine Road there. Okay. And there are some forested areas along both the western and eastern property lines. This property is obviously, we're outside of priority funding area, designated growth area, so this development will be on well and septic. Okay. Some photographs of existing conditions. The asphalt apron, and this is looking north on Woodbine Road and south along Woodbine Road, and you'll see the adjoining property has a bit of a paved asphalt parking area in the front, and as I stated, they do share this drive back into the properties. So this is looking into the property. You'll see the tree lines that I spoke of. Okay. Okay. Again, just views into the site so you can see what's there. It's a relatively flat site, and the storage building that exists back, and this is the adjoining properties building. Okay. So the plan proposal. The proposal is to construct two buildings on the property. The one closer to Woodbine Road is intended to be office space for the business, and the second one is a warehouse slash fabrication building. EMH Environmental, as described in the general notes on the plan, they're an environmental consulting and maintenance company performing work at water, wastewater, and stormwater facilities. And that's as much as I know. Jeff may be able to tell you more if you're interested in aspects of the business. So as I said, this is for their purposes. So the manufacturing fabrication is regards to materials and products that are used by EMH Environmental. The office building is 4,594 square feet of space, And you'll see there are parking areas adjoining that building, concrete walkways. The second building with the warehouse is 4,000 square feet, and you will see that there are, on the east side, there are overhead doors that are proposed in order to pull in there, in addition to person doors around the other sides of the building. These are single-story buildings. The one is 11'5", and the second one is 13 foot high, so just single-story. There are building elevations that are included in the plan packet, so you'll see what that general look of that is. One has a flat roof, the other a gabled roof. And the hours of operation for the business are also listed in the general notes. They are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And the intent is to have approximately 11 employees. So the parking requirements based on office and warehouse space would be 19 spaces, which they are proposing 19 spaces. So the access drive, the apron will remain in the same location. You'll see there's a slight reconfiguration heading into the site now. And it will still be shared by the adjoining property owners that will not be affected by that. They will still be able to share that driveway. With this, there was no traffic study that was warranted by the Trip Generations. Engineering review has approved the concept plan. If I move forward. There are no dumpsters proposed on the site. Lighting will be wall-mounted on both buildings, dusk to dawn, wall-mounted fixtures, and a freestanding sign, I think it was yep. You'll see the sign that is proposed here at the bottom of this image. It's 4 feet wide, 2 feet tall, and mounted at a height of 4 feet. It is proposed as just a painted wood sign, red background, white lettering. Again, private well and septic will serve the property. And you'll see here, so stormwater management is being addressed with microbiome facilities on the site. And that there will be a floodplain easement as well as a water resource protection easement granted to the county. Forest conservation they will address with offsite banking. And landscaping you can see is depicted in the parking areas as required, as well as along Woodbine Road. And the developer is proposing a parcel dedication along Woodbine Road to the county with this as well. The building elevations as shown in your plan set. And the site plan, please note, change the date here. The site plan did go to the technical review committee. It was not in October of 2021. It was in October of 2019. So we've acknowledged that correction in your report. And of course, the final site plan will be tested and reviewed for adequacy of public facilities. And that is all I have. Do you have any questions for myself or Mr. Ziegler?
I have a question. If you could go back to the site plan that shows the topography. It seemed to me when I looked at this that the topography falls from the road towards the building that's going to have the parking area. It gently slopes down. There's about a 20, 30-foot drop from the road to the parking area. That front right corner, that we're looking at, that fronts Woodbine Road, and there was a drawing that showed 3 specimen trees, I believe. Are you trying to keep those trees? Is that what you're doing? Okay. I would just love to make sure that that's not a beautiful section of road. It's not the prettiest part of our county. At the same time, it would be nice to see that parking area and the dock area maybe screened in some way. Did we look at that at all? It looks to me like the landscape plan just basically goes across the face of the building. It didn't necessarily go up to the corner, that far corner. Does that make sense to anybody because of the way the road turns and the elevation? We're gonna basically be looking into his dock area.
We are, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yep, that's great, Jeff.
We are preserving the woods in that corner on the right-hand side.
Great.
And then we are adding landscaping along the frontage of Woodbine Road to separate, you know, the building and our parking lot from Woodbine Road.
Okay, all right, great.
Forward. Any other comments from the commission?
Pretty straightforward.
Any public comments on this? No. This will have to come back, correct?
That is, again, that's at your discretion. It wasn't, sometimes we include it in the report, mostly if it's an amended site plan like Kirsten had. In this case, it's a vacant lot they're developing, so it is at your discretion, though. You may choose to delegate authority to the chair.
And that's the only action that needs to be taken at this time.
Correct.
Well, I'll make a motion that we delegate authority to the chair for approval of the final site plan.
I'll second.
All in favor to delegate authority?
Aye.
So unanimous to delegate authority. You guys just don't want to see site plans.
It's pretty straightforward.
Oh, maybe I'll back with, we'll see, I won't be here.
Don't slow it down anymore.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah, pretty straightforward today, thank you. Okay, any other, we do have this time set forward for any other public comment? I don't see anybody else like to make a comment? Okay, as we said, our next meeting is our Wednesday night, June 30th, for our public discussion of the residential zoning text changes. Encourage everybody to please sign up. We appreciate comments and views that maybe we don't see, or, you know, so, and this is your chance also to kind of have a back and forth with the commission that maybe you public hasn't had before. So, thank you, everybody. Good to see everybody back.
Yes.
We'll be virtual though on the 30th, and with that, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.